and welcome to Crushing On Podcast. We're here with episode, I feel like this is 8 or 9. I don't even know anymore. This has just been too long. But joining us, returning, is Theolin. How are you doing, Theo?
I'm good, thanks, and yourself, Karen?
I'm great. So this week on the podcast, we are talking about what is traditionally known as the summer blockbusters, but here obviously winter. There's been an array of huge movies that have come out at the cinema. But me, I'm extremely lazy, so I have not gone out once to go watch any of them. So that's why I've called in some help. So if you as a listener are thinking, I want to go to the movies, what should I go watch? I brought in an expert. Theo has seen almost all of them, can we say? I want to say all of them, but you pointed out a few gaps.
I've seen quite a few.
And I mean, obviously, it is your job. You are an editor for one of the biggest websites in the country. So let's not pretend that you're just like someone sad going to the movies every night.
So there's nothing wrong with going to the movies all the time if that makes you happy.
Yeah, no, you are right. And in other circumstances, that would be me. So I shouldn't be throwing shade. But obviously, okay, I want to ask you, like, let's start it off general. But it's a school holidays now. Everybody is at home with their kids, and there's quite a few children's movies on the screen. So if people want to take their kids out to watch something, what do you recommend? Which one has been your favorite?
So I have really enjoyed Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Sorry, I just had to get that title right because the title's very long. And The Little Mermaid has been so charming, I think is the right word. It was just so charming, and Halle Bailey is really, you just fall in love with her as Ariel, and so that was very lovely to kind of like witness. If you are looking for something that's not really hard on to kind of sit through, then Elemental isn't bad either. It's from Disney. Personally, it wasn't one of my favorites just because I feel like Disney has done better, and also I think you might have a better luck just waiting for it to hit streaming, because you might as well just put on Encanto or just some of the other things that streaming might offer. So that money might be best spent with Spider-Verse, to be honest, because there's like so much happening on the screen, and it's actually just such a fantastic story. Just when you think that they couldn't like up the ante on the first one, they definitely knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, because quite personally, that's something I was nervous about. I haven't seen it yet, but I mean, I've seen the first one many times, and I have a nephew who's 3 years old and is obsessed with Spider-Man. So every time we put on like Netflix or Disney Plus, he's like, "I want to watch Miles," and I've seen that movie like so many times lately. So I'm like, how are they going to top this? Like, this is amazing. So in your opinion, you think they do, or like how, or do you think it's different to the first one?
So they definitely up the ante, and like they go like most sequels. They bigger isn't always better, but with Across the Spider-Verse, they really expand the story in such an unexpected way, and you just follow Miles along, and it really does justice to the Spider-Man lore. If you know a lot about Spider-Man, if you know like just the basics of the movies that have been in cinemas, there's something for everyone to actually really get out of it, and it's very difficult to do that. I know we already had Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which, spoiler alert, includes cameos from the previous Spider-Man. So like when you've watched that, you're like, okay, well, I've gotten my fill of like nostalgia. But what's really fascinating is that Across the Spider Verse tells a very fresh and unique story because obviously we have Miles, but it just also expands the your understanding of what it means to be a hero, and like you see Miles really have to come to terms with what it means to be Spider-Man, and you realize that it's out of all the kind of like heroes, Spider-Man often has sometimes some of the biggest trauma. And so for Miles to contend with that, they really do a good job of grounding the story with heart, keeping it based in family, but also pushing the scope and the visuals. It's just lovely to watch, and they honor different animation styles like they did in the first, and it was just a wild ride that I'm sure, like with all the expectations on it, they definitely personally excelled and went beyond in ways that I didn't expect. But it just makes it all difficult task for the next movie we're supposed to get. So yeah.
Okay, so it's obviously it's school holidays now, and everybody is at home with their kids, and probably looking for activities to do. So if for the parents that want to take their kids out to the movies, what would you suggest they watch?
So there's a number of movies out for parents to take their kids to. There is the Super Mario Brothers movie. I haven't managed to watch that, but I've heard good things about it. There's Elemental, which I have seen. Personally, you better waiting for when it hits Disney Plus. Elemental is a lovely story, but with how expensive movie tickets are these days, you might be better to wait for Disney Plus with that. I would recommend.
Question, sorry,
Yes, yes, yes.
what is Elemental about? I have no
So
idea.
yeah, Elementals, they were very low key about it. So it's a Disney
Mm.
Pixar movie, and it tells this immigrant slash inter elemental romance story between this young woman who is a fire element and this guy who's a water element. But the whole story is rather just kind of like then based within that of an immigrant story. So the fire elements, they reach this land where they're the first of their kind, and then it just slowly kind of shows you how they build out their this little portion of like a community for themselves. And the you can definitely see that it has like really strong ties to obviously the immigrant story as mentioned, but it's just what they were aiming to do doesn't always meet like scrutiny. So it
Mm.
is a very charming story, but there are definitely better films that Disney has released before that or maybe that's maybe stronger. You can maybe put on Encanto for the fifth time or so. But so yeah, like Elemental, it's cute, it's fun, but I'd rather wait for Disney Plus. If a really good movie to spend your money on would be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That one was really phenomenal. Obviously, we pick up with Miles Morales again. He's still in high school now. He's gotten a hang of this crime fighting thing, but um, what Lord and Miller, the producers, have done with this, like now the second installment in this franchise, is really broadened out Miles's journey and take you on a very wild ride that surpasses the first film, which is very difficult because the first film sets a really high bar,
Mm.
but they really tell such a phenomenal story that is perfect for if you're a Spider-Man novice, if you've just watched the movies that have come out, or you happen to be like really deep in the comic books, like all of that, which is very difficult to do, to honor like and entertain people with three different levels of expertise when it comes to Spider-Man, but they really do such a phenomenal job of creating a really heartwarming and gripping story because like it entertains you, it's thrilling, it's funny, and you just fall in love with Miles even more. So that was also that's definitely one I would recommend parents take their kids to. There is the Flash as well. That movie came
Is that
out,
like a kids movie though?
but I would say it's they give you the PG 13.
Okay.
It's definitely it's PG 13. It's got language and violence, but yeah, that has come out. I have a lot of feelings about that. Um, Basically, rather put on the first season of the CW Flash, and you get more enjoyment out of it.
Is it? I heard that
But
people.
yeah, that definitely
Okay,
came out.
let's talk about more about the Flash because I mean, I haven't seen it. I haven't obviously I haven't seen any of the movies, but like, I'm in no rush to see it either. Like any other DC movie, um, but I was a big fan of the CW Flash show. I think I watched like 6 seasons or something or 5 seasons of it, and so but then I saw reviews, or not reviews, like people's views online saying the Flash is amazing, it's so great. And is it like what are your thoughts on the film?
So the Flash, it's a good movie, but I think the issue that like it really struggles is that the Flash should have come out many years ago, even like pre-pandemic. Not just because of it being a pandemic boom, but it's just the story. It's almost like it's asking you to ignore everything that you learned about the Flash and from the CW, and that's very difficult because um, everyone watched at least that first season of the show, and it was like that was a hit for the CW, and it's very difficult when you kind of know so much about Barry's story, and then Iris saying "Run, Barry, run," to then to then get to the Flash, the DCEU's version of the Flash, and you're like, this is an okay story, but it's you're always just like, okay, this is like almost like the first two episodes of the show. Yes, we have Batman, and that's great, and we have Supergirl, and that's like lovely seeing her. The actresses does a really good job as well, but
Mm,
it just the story feels so hollow when you know so much more about the Flash. So that's kind of
mm.
very difficult. That's like the umbrella that the show was kind of like expecting you to go into. As a standalone, it's fine, but again, that for me, don't waste your money.
So you're saying like that's another one we can wait till it comes on streaming?
Yeah, that's definitely another one you can wait for streaming and stuff. So that one is really good. Yeah,
So like say you want to go and you've already seen Spider Verse and you want to watch a superhero film, what would you suggest?
if you've already seen Spider Verse and you want something um, with kind of like the superhero thing. Um, I'm not sure if Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is still in cinemas. Some might still be
I think
playing
it
it,
is. Yeah.
so you can maybe still catch that. Um, that was really emotional, and at some parts, I'm not gonna lie, it does get a bit heavy, so that might be a bit too heavy for people. But honestly, it's a beautiful film. It really ties the story of the Guardians together um, so impressively. And James Gunn, one thing
Mm,
he can do is like knows how to write the Guardians, so that was really great.
mm,
There is the I don't know if it really counts as a superhero genre, but the Transformers movie has come out with the new Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. The timeline of the Transformers is very confusing, but Rise of the Beast definitely works as a reboot sequel. So if you haven't, like, if the last thing you watched was the Michael Bay movies, or you watched Bumblebee that came out, this is a really good film to just like you can start it and you can put it on. It works if you've watched it. It works if you haven't watched the others. And it's just a really fun time. I was very surprised at how fun the story is. We have a new leads in Dominic Fishback, and she was in Swarm. Let me just double check that thing.
Swarm, yeah.
Yes, yes,
I love her. I think she's such a good actor.
yes. And then we have the guy from Hamilton.
Which one?
If you okay, so let me just double check. Anthony Ramos. Sorry, yes, his name just eluded me. So yeah, we have Anthony Ramos, and he plays Noah, and then what? One of the voice characters who fulfills the Bumblebee role in the film, because they pair Anthony's character up with one of the different Transformers called Mirage, as played by Pete Davidson of all people.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, Pete does a really good job in the film, even though it's just his voice. I was actually really like having such a great time watching him, like watching like his voice and laughing, and I was like, okay, Pete. So just the pairing of Anthony Ramos and Pete Davidson, that should definitely be worth it going to watch it. It was very surprising when you kind of realize it's Pete Davidson voicing this character, and you're like, this weirdly works. So yeah, that's like another one that people should like. If you have like, if you're open minded to just going on that experience that Transformers takes you on, obviously it hits all the boxes that the Michael Bay films have done, but thankfully because like numerous explosions, but it doesn't also overstay its welcome, and has a really surprising amount of heart. So yeah.
The one thing about like those types of films is that it's like a very good cinema experience as well. Like that's the kind of movies you want to watch on a big screen.
Yes, like it definitely.
So talking about
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go right ahead.
No, go on, please.
So, like, speaking of cinema experience, obviously the Fast and the Furious 10.
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
next.
that is bombastic, and one of the best things about the Fast and the Furious, is that the movies know exactly what they are and they play up to it. So, I did have my issue with Jason Momoa's villain, but that is just because his villain it's not bad, but it's just there's so much queer coding that's going on there, and I was like, ooh, okay.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so there's definitely and I was like, okay, maybe it was just me, but then I spoke to someone else and he was like, no, they were definitely being very intentional about that. So yeah, there's a lot of queer coding going on there, and it's but that being said, the movie is fun, it's loud, it's full of thrilling action, and I had a great time from beginning to end watching that film. It's the 10th one. We might get another 2 more or just another one, but whoever knows how many movies Vin Diesel's gonna pump out of this franchise. But Fast and Furious 10
I feel like
has been really
every
good.
time people think he's gonna end, everybody thinks he's like, this is the last one, and then he's like, nope, I got another one in the bag. So I feel like as long as they keep making money.
Yes, and from like what he was hinting at was that, oh, they're trying to set up the next generation. I was like, the next generation? So we like may just get to the end of this wrap-up saga and then be like, oh, in 2 years' time it'll be like Fast and the Furious, the next gen, and then we pick up with Dominique's son or the nephews and the nieces, and then just have that whole story again, because they have cracked the code to kind of like making these movies good. So they're a lot of fun. They're corny, they're cheesy, but they definitely a really good time and money well spent at the cinema. So yeah,
You know, another thing, I was like, I was watching videos of the cast, and I was like, these people really love making these movies. Like, I mean, where before have you seen people that continually come back, like, just to be in like a 5 second scene or whatever? Like, I was like, they really love. And I mean, I'm sure they don't have those like ironclad Marvel contracts where they say you have to be in so many films. Like, Helen Mirren, Charlize, like, they just keep returning.
they really do. Like, I think you can really see that they are having fun with it, and I think sometimes cinephiles or like those of us who only like seeing these actors in serious roles sometimes forget that they also like to have fun. Like, not everything has to be this really depressing, like darkly lit movie. It's just Fast and the Furious 10. It's vibrant. It's full of colors. And everyone is aware of what they are showing up for, and they just have fun with it, and that makes it all the more enjoyable as a viewer. So you're not there like saying like, oh my gosh, they trying to play this so seriously and it's just not working. No, they know exactly what they're doing, and it just ends up being such a really good film. Um, but if you want something with like a little more, still like charming, but still more hot, I have to say the Little Mermaid was phenomenal. Halle Bailey really just knocked it out of the park, and um, there has been like some obviously like negative headlines about the race bending, but um, she she makes you fall in love with Ariel, with her version of Ariel, and the original animation is still there if you want to watch it. But she is so phenomenal, and like just when you think you've seen it all with the trailers and because they release part of your world, it's just there's not a lot of songs in the movie, which I was surprised by. But then it's easy you kind of forget that there weren't actually a lot of songs in the original as well. So when she does come in and she does sing, it's beautiful, and you want more of it, and like you feel like you don't have enough, but they really did a good job at adapting it to live action, and they really took their time with it, which I appreciate, because obviously the CGI, it's very difficult to do. It can be wonky, but
Yeah.
it's so vibrant, and I'll just say everyone's fears about it being bland are unfounded. Thankfully, there's a lot of clear colors. It's not too dim, and like they do a good job of just having a light on the screen so you can see what you're watching.
Yeah. So I have a question. So I mean, the Disney, like these Disney live adaptations, like they haven't been like, they haven't been doing that great, because obviously people are always like, oh, the Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and what's the other one, Mulan. It's just like, like meh kind of response. But I've seen so much excitement about The Little Mermaid, which I didn't see with those films. So do you think that this kind of like revitalizes that genre, or, maybe is it just Halle Bailey kind of charming us?
I think Disney is going to keep pumping out the live actions. I think they've realized that whether it succeeds or not is purely down to the director and whoever they cast. Because I think audiences have become smart enough to do it as a case by case basis. With this, there was a lot of support for Halle as Ariel, and also just her voice is phenomenal. Like we can't deny that. Like, she is so talented, and it's a star making role, and regardless of like how many people see it, you just fall in love with her, so that really helps the film. But for other adaptations, they've been hit and miss, and I think they'll continue to be hit and miss. It's just
Mm.
unfortunately now audiences have become smarter and won't just show up for any live action adaptation. It really has to that first trailer will like show you, okay, this is something of interest, or this is something that I'll just like wait until to maybe catch it when it's on streaming, or maybe not at all. Like I know that the Disney has done a few um, live action adaptations that they just put on streaming, like Pinocchio and even the Peter Pan and Wendy movie. Like those have come and
Oh
gone.
yeah, I forgot about those. And Lady and the Tramp.
Yes, I'd intended to watch those, but they were like just so like low key about it that then like you kind of it kind of passes you by. So I think even with that of choosing what they put in cinemas versus what they move to streaming gives you an indication that they've caught on to the fact that audiences are not necessarily always going to show up for each and every one of their live action adaptations.
It's so true. So okay, let's talk about like the current, big blockbuster at the moment, Indiana Jones. What did you think of that? And we saw it. It didn't do that great at Cannes, but I'm seeing like a lot of people actually really liking it. So what did you think of it?
So the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, it fits into that like that little lane of people who grew up on the originals, and it hits different for different people. I hadn't seen the first like few films. I hadn't actually seen like an Indiana Jones film like through properly, and it wasn't because I had been like avoiding it. It was just by pure happenstance that this happened to be the one um like movie like quadrilogy, because like there have been 4 films that have been out that just like
Yeah.
missed me. And so it I've been watching because Disney Plus released like the films before, and I managed to catch the first two. And obviously the first one was like you can see the charm of it. The second one wasn't as good, but it was fine. And so with those two under my belt, I went into Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I was what's the word? Um, okay, let me just rephrase this differently. Well, with Indiana Jones and the Dial and the Dial of Destiny, I left thinking that it was an adequate film. Like it, if you
Mm.
love Indiana Jones, this is one like that will make you fall in love with it all over again. If you've missed it, then like it's still a fun film, but it does rely quite heavily on like the 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 archetypes that they've established in previous films. Like I will say, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she is a phenomenal addition to this film as Indiana Jones's granddaughter, and so, but her role in many ways feels like that of the first film with Marion, and she almost feels like a mix between Marion and Indiana Jones, and that like so she's in there, and then there's also a French actor who plays her a sidekick who almost feels like Roundhouse from the second one. So they definitely
Ah.
took things he that they knew audiences had loved and like mashed it together for like a new iteration for the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Um, so it did feel a bit of a rehashing, and I did have an issue with the third act because without spoilers, there's just a blink and you miss it moment of like plot quickly changing, and you're like, wow, that was handled without any sort of like attention to detail. So that does harm the film. But if you're an Indiana Jones fan, I will say that speaking to people who've watched um,
Mm.
others, they liked it way more than the Crystal Skull. So yeah,
Okay. I haven't seen it, but like Crystal Skull like did not do well.
yeah.
So okay, so for the people like me, for example, that don't want to go out to the movies because of the weather, because of the price, many reasons, what would you suggest they watch at home? Like what streaming films have you seen lately that you think is a good choice, or what your thoughts?
So there haven't been as many films that I have seen on streaming, but there are some that I can definitely recommend. Extraction 2, um, if you liked Chris Hemsworth in the first one, it's they really kind of like write themselves out of like the definitive ending that they did with the first, because like they push his character to the limit in the first one where like they almost make it seem like, okay, no, he's dead, and then that's the end of it. So when the second one picks up, it does a really good job of just like not necessarily, yeah, actually pretty much putting back like an how heavy-handed they were with the ending. And you just meet this new action hero Tyler Rake, and this might just be his next franchise. So I have a feeling that Netflix has already started discussions for another installment, but that was surprisingly fun. And Netflix also very silently dropped what has to be one of my top movies of the year, and I just ended up
Sure.
watching it because of a TikTok. I was scrolling TikTok and someone said, "This is one of the best movies that dropped this year." I was like, "Okay, I'm sure you'd like just hyping this up unnecessarily." And then I watched it, and now it's in my top movies of the year, and it's an animation film as well. And that one is called Nimona. And so Nimona was supposed to be a Blue Sky film, which Disney, because Disney had bought Blue Sky Animation Studios, and so that was meant to be a film released under that animation studio. But due to what I largely assume are very is like a very heavy LGBTQ themes within it, Disney was
Oh,
like, okay, bye. We're gonna like
jeez.
give this to someone else. And from what I've been reading online, they were about 70% done with the film when Disney like yanked it. So that was really tough. But I will say, in times like these, a person can be very grateful for Netflix, because Nimona has come out and it is a unique spin on the hero's tale and what it means to be a hero fighting monsters, and how when you rise above your station, there are still people out to undermine you and cut you down. And it's just a really inspiring story. The themes are like so lovely, and it's, as an adult, I loved it. As if you just also want to put it on for like the young kids, they will also love it, because is Nimona is the, as it's titled, is a character who they can shapeshift, and it's so cool that I enjoyed it, and I definitely think that kids will enjoy it, because there are times where Nimona will shapeshift into a shark and will shapeshift into a
Oh, cute.
whale, and it's so random when it happens, but they how the film pulls it off is very impressive, and I cannot gush enough about this movie. It's so charming and so lovely. And please, if there, out of all, in our discussion, if nothing else has piqued your interest, just watch Nimona, because it really is a movie that you will not regret watching.
So So what are you excited to see that hasn't come out yet? Like, you excited to go to the cinema to watch?
So there's quite a few. I just actually had to look at the calendar again. There's quite a few movies coming out. So obviously, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part One. We have that coming out on the 12th. I think actually the 14th, the 12th or 14th. But it's coming out next week. So um, everyone has the reviews that have been in. Everyone said it's been like one of the best Mission Impossible films, and I really don't doubt that because the the franchise recently has just keep upping the ante, and it's similar to the Fast and Furious franchise. It's been reinvigorated. So um, Christopher McQuarrie, who's been writing and directing these films, has really paid really close attention to delivering action that people can enjoy. And what really adds to the film is that you see Tom Cruise doing his own stunts. Like it's been really fun to watch. So if you haven't watched those films recently, they're really good binges. So if you want to put them on, find them on a streaming service, and then you can catch up because Dead Reckoning is sure to be really great. The reviews have been really good for it, so I'm looking forward to that. We've obviously got Barbenheimer, as the internet has been calling it. So the Barbie film, and from Greta Gerwig and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, they've just been dominating the internet discussions. So I'm sure for very different reasons they're gonna deliver.
Yeah. Like, it feels almost like I don't know, like, you know, in Dexter's Laboratory where Dee Dee like drags Dexter. I feel like that is
Yes.
Barbie like dragging Oppenheimer through
Yeah.
the thing, because like Oppenheimer's just like there sad, and Barbie's just like pulling it, like, come on, we are gonna get excited, we are gonna do this thing.
Yeah. So like, and there's also a few other movies coming out in August. Once we are, because I can't believe we're already in July. There's the Teenage Mutant
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Warner Brothers, The Meg 2. To be honest, I haven't seen the Meg 1, but my friend was like, "Listen, if it's bombastic like like if like Sharknado's things are your vibe, you'll definitely like enjoy that." There's Gran Turismo, which apparently is inspired by a true story and was directed by Neil Blomkamp, the South African director who did District 9. So I know his
Oh,
films
wow.
have been hit and miss, but that one, from the trailer, I was surprised by how enticing it looked. So we have that, and then obviously we have another superhero film, Warner Brothers Blue Beetle, in August, and
Oh
then
gosh.
yeah, so that's in August, and then also Sony's also back with um, Denzel Washington in the Equalizer 3, and that's the one where he's reuniting with Dakota Fanning. So so yeah, there's quite a, and then still we have the Marvels.
There's a lot going
There's a
on.
lot going on. We still have the Marvels like later this year. We have Dune Part 2 later this year. So and there's also kind of like a few
Challenges.
challenges. We have a few other films that like maybe a little low key as well that people need to look out for, but will only kind of get any clear um, like any more clarity on it once like trailers for them drop and stuff. Because I know that as we head into Oscar season, these things also unexpectedly films will pop up, and you're like, oh wait, I need to watch that and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. But Theo, thank you so much for joining us on this episode and kind of like making my decision when I go to the movies a lot easier. And I'm sure for many of the listeners as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I hope it was useful information for people who love their movies.
It definitely was. But thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
That's all from me this week. If you would like to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/crushingonpod, where you can get some bonus content in exchange for a monthly financial subscription. To catch us on social media, you can find me at Karen Walby on Instagram and at Karen Walby's with an S on Twitter. The podcast can be found at Crushing on Pod on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. You can find more information about this and all our other episodes at our website, crushingonpodcasts.com, and send any feedback to mail@crushingonpodcasts.com. The show is produced by me, Karen, Rebecca Barches, and Leanne Phillipson. Our logo was designed by Nathifa Maroof. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can, any way that you can. Keep up to date with all our episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as it helps others find the show. We'll be back soon with another in-depth conversation. See you then.